Welcome to the Critic Up Show on Creativity in You, and I'm your host Uche Teresa Izuko. And today we do have a special guest. Today's guest comes to us from New York, United States. Jordan believes that personal development is a never-ending process of imagining who you want to be, interpreting why you want to be that person, creating a plan to get there, and then implementing that plan in the most enjoyable and fulfilling way possible. Book author at BenBella Books, Jordan, you're welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to spend a little time with you and your audience.
Wonderful. That's amazing. And we're glad to be part of your story today. You're so creative. You've done so many things, and I can't wait to hear everything right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Creativity is very important to me, and doing a lot of different things is very important to me. So that's really nice to
Exactly.
hear.
Oh, wonderful. That's good. Everything about creativity is you. Through your platform, imagination, interpretation, creativity, and implementation has helped guide people to think differently and make daring changes in their lives. How has all these helped to guide you towards a deeper level in embracing your passion and goals?
That's such an amazing question. And those four concepts you mentioned, right? Imagination, interpretation, creativity, and implementation. That's my concept that I call imagitivitation. So I like making up words. I like having a little fun with the messages that I share. So I put those four words together and I created what's called imagitivitation. And imagitivitation, Teresa, is what I have used in order to it's like a form of manifestation of your goals, right? So it's also a form of visualization and basically I use that process. So let's say, for example, I have given a couple of TED Talks, right? So I use imagitivitation when I have that goal of going out and getting the TED Talk. So I use my imagination to first envision myself giving that TED Talk, right? I start with the goal in mind and I'm up on stage in my mind and I'm giving the talk and there's an audience and it's all great, right? So I use my imagination. And then I take a step back and I say, well, why is this what I'm imagining, right? Let me interpret that dream of mine. And I ask myself these questions because it's so important for purpose reasons, like you said, right? Why is this a dream of mine? Why do I want to give a TED talk? Why do I want to share this idea, so I do a little bit of that self-introspective exploration. Then I start to use my creativity, right? And this is the part that I love because it's kind of like a creative way to go about achieving your goals or your
Mhm.
dreams, right? So getting creative with the TED Talk was like reaching out to the organizers and seeing what the theme of the talk was and how can I create a story or a pitch that's going to integrate with that theme. So getting creative on how you achieve the goal.
Right.
And then implementation is my next favorite part because implementation is just where you get to try. You get to try and you get to fail and it's trial and error and you get to see if it works. And then after all that implementation of the plan that you've set forth in the creativity part, you hopefully get to, get back and circle back to that imaginative dream that you had of where you wanted to be.
Wow, this is absolutely amazing. So it feels like it's a stage. So one has to come first, the other follows, and then the implementation seems to be like the last.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it is in phases like that, but always revisiting the different strategies, right? So as you're implementing, you're still keeping up with that imagination because you want to maintain the image of you achieving your goal, right? You're still
Mhm.
interpreting why you're doing this because that's a reminder to keep going forward if you're not getting it right away. You're still creatively activating that plan and doing workarounds if it's not working out, right? So it is like a process, as you said, but you're always thinking about the different components. And Teresa, it's it's really for me, the reason why I created this was like the concept of manifestation to me, it just needed something more. I didn't just want to sit here and say like, oh, if I believe in getting a TED Talk enough, I'll get it. I was like, well, I'm thinking about it, but it's not coming true. So I just wanted to put a little bit more strategy to it.
Oh yeah, I know strategy with work kind of, gets the ball rolling there,
Sure.
which is amazing. And it's that desire to do something, think about it, imagine it, create it, gives you that will to want to try again.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go right the first time, you want to try again.
Right.
You don't just want to give up and say, okay, you know what, TED Talk is not for me, I'm just going to do something else. No, you're just going to keep thinking through it until boom, one day something clicks. Okay, this is what I want to talk about. I'm going to go to TED Talk, I'm going to talk about this topic, I'm going to motivate people, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's great. It's an amazing feeling, actually.
Right. Right.
It is.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us today. You were able to guide your thoughts towards reimagining personal development. You're
Yeah.
currently trailblazing in the personal development space right now by using creative storytelling to allow people to gather insights. Your book clearly explains how storytelling spiced with creativity can help formulate the perfect pitch for entrepreneurs. How has these unique skills helped you as an individual?
Yeah, so that's another really amazing question. And storytelling, the background for me is it came from enjoying the personal development process rather than just focusing on the end goal, right? So
Right.
as I was going through my own inner work, my own introspection, my own reading and listening to podcasts and all this good stuff, I kind of got to a standstill
Okay.
where I said there's so much information. You can, there's articles about one thing and then there's an article about a different thing, and then it's so confusing to have all of this information when it's all out there, which can support any beliefs, right? So that's when I came across storytelling. And when stories are told that do not have a direct prescriptive message, for me, what it did was it allowed me to be the owner of my own thoughts, right? When I was being given advice, I was not thinking for myself. When I get a story, it primes me to think of my own ideas, my own experiences, and use that story as a catapult for my own interpretation and ultimately my own implementation into my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I started to do. And I really enjoy how when you read or listen to or watch a good story, you're able to, I mean, one, enjoy it. It
Exactly.
can
Oh,
be
yeah.
very fun. So it is about enjoyment.
Yeah.
And then I also think it takes away some of the stress and pressure of that prescriptive advice sometimes, right? Where if
Right.
you read a self-help book and you start to implement the advice and it's not working right away, you're like, well, I'm a failure. It's not working for me. I can't do anything right. And then you get into that negative spiral.
Exactly.
But if you just have a story and you say, you know what, I want to be like that character, or I don't want to live my life like that character, sort of empowers you to get the feeling that you have made this decision on your own, right? The story was the precipitant, but you are ultimately the one who decides what you're going to do next. And I think that's huge because at the end of the day, right, as much help as we need or as much as other people do influence us, we are the people we spend the most time with in our own lives ourselves.
Exactly.
So we have to feel proud and confident of the decisions that we make and the stories that we ultimately, live out.
Yeah, and it kind of puts you in control. You want to
Mhm.
be in control with things happening
Well
around
said. Uh-huh.
you, happening in your life as well. So it's good. It's great. You know what? I can just imagine the whole process just as you were talking, and it felt so it's real, it's strong, like it empowers you, it gives you that energy that you need to make decisive decisions, about what you want to do, how you want to do it, and how you want to go about doing it. I think that's where the strategy comes into play. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's good. It's absolutely amazing. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned energy there and control.
Mhm.
Great additions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you for sharing all that information with us today. That's amazing.
Bet.
Thank you. We're still on the show Critica, a Fast production, and I'm your host, Uche Teresa Ezuko. And today we do have a special guest. Jordan Gross is our special guest today. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. What are your gift ideas for the holiday? Gift yourself and a loved one some of my recommended books catalog, like Jovita Efehe's book titled My Hometown, an African Folklore. Available on Amazon.ca. I also do recommend Frank Talabra's Seeds of Ascension and What I Would Do to Buddha If I Met Him in the Pub. The name speaks for itself, right? Exactly. And Erin Craft's poem collection titled Silence and Effect. Also available on Amazon.ca. These are great takes. If you love compelling storytelling and some wonderful poetic enchantments, then you would love these authors' collections. And also don't forget to check out Jordan Gross' collections as well. The Journey to Cloud 9, Getting Comfy, and What Happens in Tomorrow's World, amongst others. His collections are a must-have, and it has helped me through finding my inner purpose. So you cannot miss this. And his books are available on Amazon.com. And Jordan, you're still welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Teresa.
Wonderful.
Appreciate you caring about the book.
Yes. All right. So can you tell us a little bit more about your book now that we have mentioned your book? Okay. It seems to have all the right answers and resources for today's individuals navigating different spectrum of life. How has all these helped to give you that formidable strength and nurtured your creative capabilities and desires?
So the book you mentioned, What Happens in Tomorrow World, is an example of what we mentioned before, right? This creative storytelling. It's a spark to read the book and say, I want to be like this character, or I am like this character, and oh my goodness, if I'm like the other character, then this is going to happen in my life, right?
Yeah.
So it does provide some of that fun and creativity. The theme of this book, What Happens in Tomorrow World, is about navigating uncertainty. And I wrote this book during the first couple of days of the pandemic, when I was in my apartment, when there was so much uncertainty going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to share a resource for people to read it and try to figure out who they wanted to be during such unprecedented times, right? So I ended up coming up with a few different mindsets that we all have in the midst of uncertainty: optimism, pessimism, sageness, or chill indifference.
Okay.
And these 4 ideas were based on numerous interviews that I did, but they ultimately were my 4 grandparents. So I took their personalities, their mindsets that I remember from uncertain situations, things like, whether I was going to score well on an exam, to things as simple as what the weather would be like tomorrow, to things as monumental as when my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
No.
And I figured out this is who they are. This is their mindset during uncertain times. And I put those mindsets into characters in a crane game. And the crane comes down in the book, and these 4 toys within the crane game are exposed to the uncertainty of whether or not the crane is going to scoop them up and ultimately bring them into the outside world. So it's a fun, silly idea, but what it ultimately shows us is how we can respond to these unknown, possibly fearful situations, and how these responses either lead to unity or division or something else, right?
Yeah. and you know that something else is something one cannot predict.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, wonderful. So when you were in your apartment, writing that story, there was so much uncertainty going on in the world, and well, what was your mindset at that time? What were you feeling? Like sometimes our feeling compels our story, like how we want the story to be read and understood. As an author, I gathered that, that's feeling. So I want to be able to connect with what you were feeling at that time when you were writing that story.
Yeah, so my mindset leans more toward optimism,
Okay.
and I'm striving a little bit more for sageness, right? Like stoicism. Because as I demonstrate in the book, sometimes optimism is not always the answer, right? And it can feel like we always want to be positive and optimistic, but if you're interacting with somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum, then those efforts to be optimistic are relatively futile, right?
Yeah, this kind of summarizes your personality as a person, as a wonderful person. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us today. Thank you. You have so many experiences under your belt as a podcast host, two times TEDx speaker, writer, editor, amongst others. Also, as a best selling author of Getting Comfy, your morning guide to daily happiness and the journey to Cloud9. Can you tell us a little bit more about these adventurous escapades?
Yeah, so like you kind of said in the beginning, I like doing a lot of different things. I like having rich experiences and trying things. I'm what I found out was called a multi-potentialite, which is this term that somebody had an amazing TED talk on it,
Yeah.
which describes people who, when you're a kid and somebody asks you what you want to be when you grow up, you don't just say one thing.
Yeah.
You say, I want to be a soccer player, but I also want to be a teacher, and I also want to be an electrician, and I also want to be an artist. And it's
Yeah.
the idea that you don't just want to focus on one thing.
Mhm.
You want to have many different experiences, and that's what I've tried to do. Um, so yeah, so that's pretty much the mindset around how I've done all these different things. And then the books that I've written were, again, sort of, I like to create what I'm consuming. So I just give it my own shot,
Exactly.
and that's what I did.
Exactly. And it's more like not dumping all your eggs in one basket, the idea of wanting to be a doctor, electrician,
Right.
writer, speaker, you just want to be a little bit of everything, just to
Yeah.
add some spice to the whole. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that with us today. Thank you. We're still on the show Critical of Fast Food Production, and I'm your host, Uche Teresa Izuko. And today we do have a special guest. Jordan Gross is our special guest today. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And Jordan, you're still welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. All right. So tell us, how do you feel about where you are right now in terms of what you have achieved creatively? What are your next big steps? Where are all of these taking you to? Where do you see yourself excelling into from here?
Yeah, so I'm very proud of where I am now, but I still think it's just the very start.
Mhm.
I am currently finishing up my degree to become a therapist and specialize in mental health.
Wonderful.
So, where I see myself going in the creative pursuits is to now use the experiences, the people who I've met, the further understanding of the mental health world that I'm constantly going to be learning, and turn them into stories, just as I did with self help and personal development. How can I create a more conscious world where we are more in tune with mental health through these ideas that I have, that stories are a way to empower us to create our own views on the mental health world. So that's what I have coming up. I'm going to be creating more and more content just to stay, in that creative mindset on LinkedIn, and I'll be writing on Medium, and then more and more books to come, I hope.
Oh wow, this that's all super exciting here. I can feel that excitement that's coming through from yeah, it is. It's amazing. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
I'm sure a lot of people out there are eager to know more about what you do. How can we reach out to you for collaborations or partnerships? We're all interested in getting to know you more.
So the best place to reach me is a private message or direct message on LinkedIn.
Okay.
My name is just Jordan Gross on LinkedIn, and I make sure to keep an empty inbox on there. So I respond to every message on LinkedIn.
It's amazing having you here, sharing all the beautiful insights with us today. And thank you so much for coming to the show. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
You're welcome. We've all heard all Jordan Gross has to say. He's creative, he's talented, he's determined, he's fierce. Yeah, and reach out to him on LinkedIn private message. And also don't forget my gift ideas, my recommended catalog for books. Check out Jovita Efe, his books, Aaron Craft's poems, and Frank Tolliver's books as well. Also, don't forget to check out Jordan Gross collections as well. Jordan, thank you for coming to the show.
Thanks so much again.